This episode of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live is brought to you in part by Viewfinder's Identity Search and Design. Your choice for web design, graphic design, and all multimedia development needs. Visit VFISAD.com and let us bring your vision to reality.
Hey, this is Mega Ran, teacher, rapper, hero, waffle lover. And you're checking out A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. Turn it up and share.
It's time. Talk time. Let's go. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live. Started in the 80s with Matt Cross. Dudes in the hood might have called that soft, but I carried that cross like Jesus did. Fast forward, I teach the kids to learn how to let go, live life, and show love to all things that don't matter where y'all from. And luckily there's a show called Talk Time. We've been waiting for this for a long time. Dax kicks the facts on all the geek news, special guests and unbiased reviews. Suburban kids, the hipster street dudes, all can learn something new. Me too. I heard words when no faith is empty. I stayed the course so my haters tempt me. Beat the podcast, that'll make them envy. It ain't too trendy, it's A.C.M.G. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Anime, comics, movies, and games. That come on and let's get it. Talk time. Live.
Everybody, and welcome back to the journal of my life that covers all things anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the Prime Show. I am your host, Xavier Josiah. Folks, we got a huge show. So huge that we're going to split it into 2 episodes, which will be available today upon listening to this right now. This one will be focused on what I was going to do originally in schedule, and I didn't want to miss out on anyway. I want something fun and exciting to talk about on here and keep, the vibe going. And so with that, we're going to talk about BAKI Season 3 on Netflix. It just came out. I got a chance to check it out, the sub version at best, because due to the circumstances of COVID-19, Netflix is prioritizing the voice acting talent that they do for multi languages. So the English dub has not arrived, but that doesn't mean I can't watch and enjoy the subs either. So we will definitely talk about what I thought about that season, as well as a lot of news going on in our favorite fandoms. And of course, I would be remiss if we don't talk about the situations that are going on today. And with that, that's what's going to stretch onto our other episode, which is going to focus on, and I don't want to call it a review. It technically is a review, but it's more of a discussion because the movie is phenomenal. It speaks for itself. It doesn't need to be graded, in my opinion, and many other opinion. As you guys probably know or may not know, Just Mercy, along with a whole list of black films on Amazon and many other formats, are now free to watch. They allow everybody to watch these films in accordance to the Black Lives Matter movement, and as a way of getting people to understand the depth of racism, systemic racism, and all forms of racism. You have these examples that were produced and directed and acted by many great talents out there. I happened to watch Just Mercy just recently because that was one of the first ones that was announced to be free by the studios, and it hit me very hard, so much to the point that it brought up back some memories of my experiences as well. And we're going to talk about that on the other episode, because not only we're going to discuss that movie, it's just pretty much going to be a free form. There will be no notes given on here. I'm just going to, talk about some of the movie, and then talk about my own experiences of how I was arrested and wrongfully arrested, and almost put to jail to the point that you would not be hearing my voice today. I would not be able to do any of the things that I'm doing today, as well as other forms of racism that occurred in my life in accordance to what really goes on in the world. So we definitely got to talk about that. That needs to be heard. That needs to be, I'm just one example of many. That movie is just one example of many that is going on, and we need to change this. So we're going to discuss that in the other episode there. But for now, let's not waste any more time, folks. We got a lot of news to talk about. Let's find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
And now, it's time to find out what's new in the world of A.C.M.G.
All right, folks, so as you know, we didn't have an episode last week because everything was so heavy, and the impact of what was going on with the protest and the riots and the police brutality that is still going on in some areas. Unfortunately, we couldn't do a show, and a lot of other media formats and a lot of other companies also put a pause on things to focus on the Black Lives Matter movement. But while that was happening last week, we did get some news in the world of the CW and Berlanti Studios in reference to the Batwoman series. So we all figured that they were going to replace Kate Kane with another actor. Ruby Rose she did a great job. Say what you will about her, she did a great job. I loved her as Ruby Rose. She looks just like the comic book character, and like a Jim Lee drawing come to life. And unfortunately, she's not going to be on the show. It was too much on her. It was too taxing on her, and plus she got a lot of unfortunate backlash, unwarranted backlash, because of who she is, and she's a member of the LGBTQ community, and which is total. The vocal minority pretty much hit, and screw them. Plus, not to mention, she got an injury or two, and hours, as she claimed. It just happens. It happens. Not everybody is, capable of being able to handle that, but she decided to step down. Now, when we thought that the character Kate Kane was going to be replaced, no. In fact, for some reason, Berlanti Studios is not replacing Ruby Rose's Kate Kane. Instead, there will be a new character. According to reports all around, the CW will now introduce a new character by the name of Ryan Wilder, and is said to be a woman in her mid-20s who is about to become Batwoman. So she's going to take over the mantle. Okay, I'm being optimistic as possible, but the other part of my brain is like, this sucks. And I don't know how this is going to come out, but I've been a fan of Greg Berlanti and what his team has always done. He's advocated diversity, probably more than a lot of shows out today, respectfully. And he really, really wanted to make Batwoman a big thing, especially for the LGBTQ community as well. It's like, because she is a part of the culture, and Kate Kane is a part of the culture. So it was a match made in heaven. So they're finding another character, and I don't know if she's going to be LGBTQ as well. I'm pretty sure he's very adamant on making another character of that culture as well, and we'll see. Well, I don't doubt Greg Berlanti, but I just don't know how this is going to turn. So, according to the website, a website known as the Decider, they reported that she's a likable, messy, a little goofy, and untamed. So, like, it sounds like she's Robin, like Jason Todd Robin before he grew up. She's also nothing like Kate Kane, the woman who wore the bat suit before her. The The notice also reads, according to the decider, with no one in her life to keep her on track. Yeah, this definitely sounds like Jason Todd. Ryan spent years as a drug runner, dodging the GCPD and masking her pain with bad habits. A girl who would steal milk for an alley cat could also kill you with her bare hands. Ryan is the most dangerous type of fighter. Highly skilled, wildly undisciplined, an out lesbian. Okay, so she is going to be a lesbian in here. And athletic, raw, passionate, fallible, and very much not your stereotypical all-American hero. This is going to be interesting. But also note that we still have to figure out what's going to happen to Kate Kane. Where does she go all of a sudden? Like, because, with how the first season ended, what are they going to do when it comes to an episode where we're going to need to know what happened to Kate Kane? Are they going to kill her off? Did she run away into, something has to happen. Like, at least if she's going to jet like that, I would at least let her do one episode, ask her to do one episode so it can explain where her whereabouts is. It's just, this is devastating. I don't understand why they actually, got to go about this direction. I don't know, and a lot of people are thinking that it could have something to do with them trying to get Ruby Rose back to reprise the role, and they don't want to just replace her respectfully. So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, very interesting. But we got a long way to go, and again with COVID-19 and hopefully everything opening up slowly soon, they can get back into production, and we'll see how this goes from there. I mean, it will eventually come back, but to what extent and what quality, we'll see. But again, I'm dancing around this. One half optimistic, the other one pessimistic and doubtful. So very cynical on the other side. So we'll see. We will see. Marvel Studios. Let's talk about Marvel Studios, because there's been a lot of talk about the Man in Red as of late. Marvel Studios will finally regain the rights to Daredevil in the course of 6 months from now. Daredevil fans have been petitioning for Marvel to get the rights for the Man Without Fear. The show was canceled after the third season on Netflix, and even though the studios were able to successfully close the Kingpin chapter and saga, fans wanted to see more, myself included. I'm so glad that they were able to end, because I think that was the only series, if I'm correct, that ended and closed the doors properly with the saga. And I'm glad he did. The third season was without a doubt the best. And to top it off, we got a interaction with the Punisher and the Kingpin for the first time ever in live action. Awesome. We've been waiting years for this. Like, why didn't they do this for Dolph Lundgren? Don't get it. But over 355,000 signatures were submitted during this campaign. Deborah Ann Wall, who played the role of the heroine Karen Page on the series, began trending on Twitter due to her tweeting about Daredevil. Vincent, I love this. I love this. It's so many things to love about this movie, about this series, and especially Vincent Onofrio, who played Kingpin, Wilson Fisk himself. And I told people all the time, I mentioned this on the show like episodes back, that he is one of the best Marvel villains in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Absolutely no discussion. Like, I would even say he actually is second to Thanos. And I know people will probably argue with that by saying, Loki was number 2. Nah, Loki ended up being a hero after a while, so that kind of gets him out. Wilson Fisk was so feared that people killed themselves rather not to save their families, to do, or not to deal with him. They killed themselves, which is crazy. absolutely crazy. Charlie Cox thanks the fans, but he did go on to say that he thinks that the MCU will more than likely recast and start from scratch with the character in the series. That is, and when he said that, I was like, nah, why would they do that? But no, I didn't, because it is very possible. Like, who's to say that the imagery, the narrative, and everything that they did on the Netflix shows is what they wanted for the Marvel Cinematic Universe? But I love what they did. That I love that it brought a bit of diversity, a bit more diversity to the universe by having this dark, really, really dark area. But this was before. No, this wasn't before Disney brought it. This was during, and they were still able to do that. They pull no punches with this show, and I love it. I still think they can mix it up. They did blend a lot of the events that happened from other shows and movies onto what happened there. I remember when they mentioned the Punisher, they kind of lightly wink mentioned the Punisher on Age of the Shield. There was on Jessica Jones, they mentioned there was something that they mentioned regarding Civil War on there too as well, because of the Sokovia Accords. So I mean, it worked, and it could have worked even more if they would have mentioned it. It would have been no problem. They can mix these two around. Like, let's keep it real. Everything that happens in the hood and all this stuff is real. It's gritty. It's not to be heroic, and not everybody comes back to life or anything. And I know they did that on Civil War, and a bunch of people in Sokovia died. But at the same time, things are a little bit grittier, so who knows? They can change their mind, especially due to the circumstances of what's been going on today. So we will see, but it's awesome. They will be getting it back, so who knows what they... See, now, this funny thing is, Daredevil's been talked about. I would dare say Luke Cage and all of the entire Defenders. And I'm really pissed off that Iron Fist, even though it got a really, really bad rep on the first season, it really started coming back together in the second season. And then just when things were starting to get good, they canceled it. And I was highly upset at that. So we will see. There's a lot to go on down the road, and we'll see what happens from there. Last bit of news that I have here is a special treat for all you anime otaku on Hulu. Hulu has gained the rights to stream the first season of the futuristic boxing anime Megalobox. If you guys have been listening, if you guys been hanging on in the show, or if you're new to the show, I've reviewed this series when it first came out. And this highly acclaimed anime will also include dubbed and subbed audio, which is awesome, because if you guys watched it on Toonami on Cartoon Network, they aired it on there with the English dub. So now you get to have it with no commercial interruptions or anything on there now. The series was a celebration of the 50th anniversary of the legendary anime and manga Ashita no Jo, and which that boxing anime is also... I still like Hajime no Ippo a little bit better, because that's more of an underdog. Like, Ippo is the ultimate underdog. He's an inspiration to everybody who was bullied or whatever like that. And then he had, he worked his hardest and became champion in his own weight class. And that's an awesome series. But Ashita no Jo is the original boxing anime, and it's just spanned from comics to anime to video games, whatnot, you name it. I actually have the import for this Super Famicom that I have in possession. I gotta play that one of these days. But the series was set in the future, not like in the same present time was Joe. So it was set in the future where an underground prize fighter named Junk Dog strives to fight in the ranks of Magnolia, which is reserved for licensed citizens. This is a high class, higher upper stratification area, and where it. What can I refer to? Ready Player One is think Battle Angel Alita, where there's a higher class society, and then there's you in the slums. Or think Final Fantasy with Midgar, So Think of those right there. That's what this kind of is. Kind of like that type of deal. So Junk Dog aims to prove that he is among the best top class, upper class fighters, or top upper class fighters, I should say that, without the use of mechanical gears, which they use to enhance the fighting. It pretty much enhances the impact and speed of the fights. So it's pretty much a gimmick, and Junk Dog pretty much is not about that. He feels that he could get a better fight without the gears, and that's what it kind of plays. There's a lot of anime like that, where it's just like gimmick versus traditional. I was just talking to somebody on social media about another anime like that, Pretty Miku, which is a pro wrestling anime. Is a futuristic pro wrestling anime that has somewhat of the same premise as this. And basically, you have Miku, who is a traditional pro wrestler, but she's also a pop idol. And the idea for the promoter is to promote that these women are pop stars, also pro wrestlers, so it could attract, a broader demographic. And Miko basically wants to fight traditionally without the gears and feel that you can put on a better fight without them, and as she fights the champion Aquamarine. So it's a little bit campy, but I do recommend, if you could find Pretty Miko, find it. It's actually pretty good, especially if you're a pro wrestling fan. I say it's pretty good. It's not the best pro wrestling anime I've ever seen, but definitely pretty good out there. So, but Megalobox is available now, and I highly recommend it if you're a traditionalist in anime and you like that old school hand-drawn style. Anyway, this is beautifully done in all aspects, so go out of your way to check that out. Folks, that will do it for what's new in the world of A.C.M.G. We're going to take a break, come back, and review the third season of BAKI, the RAI TAI Tournament. It's finally here. We're going to talk about that right after this. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Dak Xavier Josiah, the host of A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live, the podcast. You want to catch up with all of our podcast shows and hear from some of the hottest names in all of anime, comics, movies, and games, such as...
This is Miley Flanagan, the voice of Naruto.
This is Stephanie Shea, the voice of Sailor Moon.
This is Ruben Langdon, voice of Ken Masters and Dante from Devil May Cry.
Hey there, this is Kyle Hebert, the voice of Ryu from Street Fighter V.
This is Chris Battle, character designer of Teen Titans Go.
Here's your chance to check out all of that and more on TalkTimeLive.com. TalkTimeLive.com provides all of our ACMG content with new and previous episodes, exclusive interviews, articles, and much more. Visit TalkTimeLive.com and let us help you learn to let go, live life, and love all things ACMG.
Talk Time Live.
Hey, this is Jeff Thorne. I am the writer, producer, showrunner of the Avengers Black Panther's Quest TV series, and you are listening to ACMG Presents Talk Time Live.
Do it.
And now it's time for our talk topic of the week. Ready? Fight!
All right, folks, we are back with our talk topic of the week, and it is my review of BAKI Season 3, the RAI TAI Tournament. This is the tournament that we've all been waiting for, and from the last season, we saw BAKI go through a lot of hell, facing off some of the most notorious, sociopathic, insane death row inmates coming to Japan to face BAKI. And these guys were like murderers and serial killers and whatnot, and they got these guys out to fight BAKI. BAKI used them as a test to see if he was strong enough to face his father, Yujiro Hanma, probably the most evil dude in all of anime. I mean, absolutely cutthroat. And there's been a discussion recently on some forums and social media about who is the worst villain or best villain or the strongest villain ever. I'm putting Yujiro Hanma on that format. I don't know if he's number one, but he's damn sure in the top 5 for me. So season 3 gives us the Great RAI TAI Tournament in China. And it has BAKI entering a traditional tournament, a centennial tournament for that matter, that spans over 100 years in China. BAKI's goal, of course, is to defeat his father, and by doing so, proving that he is the strongest fighter in the world after getting vengeance on his mother that he killed him way back in the original first season. If you guys haven't watched if you guys have only watched the series on Netflix, I got news for you. There is way more than what they're showing on Netflix. There actually is 2 seasons, and I believe, I forgot how many episodes there are each. I think it's 52. Rather, altogether is 52 per season. Because it starts off as him as a kid training in all these other places to be as strong as his father. And not to spoil anything, but Yujiro he gives -0 Fs in this series. I think he was even more evil and cutthroat on the first 2 seasons than he was in these seasons. But he still shows his badassery, if you want to call it that, if that's even a word or a term. But this season, Baki, this has always been his goal, and the idea to enter this tournament, because Yujiro's entering this tournament along with Retsu and a few other of his known characters, have decided to enter this tournament to see who's the strongest in China and the strongest in the world. This was going to be the chance for Baki to finally face his father. Yeah. However, Baki is still not in the best of conditions right now. He still has a deadly poison coursing through his veins as a result of the fight that he had with Ryoko Yanaga, who possessed the poison hand technique that took place in season 2. So they carried that over right into the 3rd season. He's not exactly like skin and bones weak, but he looks thinner. He looks like a crackhead, pretty much drained out of his energy. But somehow, some way, he's still Baki. So let's talk about some notable moments and fights. Like this. If you watch Baki, you know what to expect. Just some of the most insane, violent, over the top mixed martial arts fights, underground mixed martial arts fights, I should say. I mean, just insane, just utterly insane. So we're going to talk about some of the fights that were worth mentioning here. And there's one that I didn't mention in my notes here involving the Sea Emperor Kaku, who I will definitely be talking about thoroughly in this. Because I'm watching it actually on my screen right now as I'm talking about this as well. He is an old man, a very, 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 very old man. And somehow he's still able to be spry and fast. There's one section here, I would be remiss if I didn't mention this, that he pulled down his opponent's pants, flicked his undercarriage, knocking his opponent out insanely cold. Match is over. This is how insane. Like these guys, martial arts techniques are like centuries old, and they have trained to its totality and above that. It's like you talk about plus ultra. This is kind of plus ultra, where they could do extraordinary type of abilities, and these are just normal humans. They don't have any special abilities. They're not mutants. They don't have quirks or anything like that. These are just humans training to the very best and then above that. So here you have Sea Emperor Kaku, I believe. Did I say Kaku? Yes, Kaku. So we have Sea Emperor Kaku, who is in a wheelchair, but then he is extremely strong. There's a scene in here where I'm looking at right now, where he actually is he puts his students' hands together, then he strikes it with a pen all at once, and then chops it off with his hands, cutting all their hands off. If you're listening to this, and if you see the graphic on the actual graphic promo that I made for this episode, this is not for kids. I'm definitely going to put this to you now. This is not for kids. This is very, very adult-oriented, violent, rated R, whatever you want to put it. Like, they get really hardcore violent in this thing. Not to the level of Fist of the North Star. This is like second tier to Fist of the North Star or Story of Ricky. If you ever watch that, like, those are just overboard. Like, I don't even want to describe how violent Fist of the North Star and Story of Ricky is, but heads explode. Let's just put it like that. So very graphically, but they don't disappoint you. If that's what you're looking for in this show, they do not disappoint. So notable mentions that I put on my notes is like the meeting with Yujiro and Ali Jr., and that is Muhammad Ali Jr., which we'll definitely talk about more down the line in this in these notes. Yujiro and Ali Jr., which if you guys remember in season 2, they introduced Muhammad Ali into the show. And which is awesome because he is in the manga as well. And I've read the manga, and I believe I've read this saga as well of Baki. And like a lot of this is coming back to me when I see this stuff. So, but Muhammad Ali is introduced in the manga, and he's been introduced in the show. Now, granted, I'm going to probably mention this again, that they changed the spelling of Ali. And I'm pretty sure that might have something to do with legal reasons or not. But the likenesses and everything there. And Ali Jr. is a fictional character because he never had a son. Ali Jr. is never... There's Layla Ali, who is a female champion fighter. And I believe undefeated. Don't quote me. I don't recall her ever losing a fight, but she's also famous as well. Dropped a gorgeous for that to boot. But in this anime, this fictional universe, Ali Jr. exists. So that's what they went with. And I don't know if this was before they even knew that Layla Ali even existed in this, but they went with it. So there's a meeting with Yujiro and Ali Jr. And I believe Yujiro just wanted him to enter the tournament, and he wanted to question his strength in regards to entering the tournament. He invites him into this hotel and invites him to be a part of this tournament. And Ali, at the same time, and him are talking. They make reference to the legendary Ali and Antonio Inoki fight in Japan. This was a real fight that happened where Muhammad Ali faced one of the top martial arts and pro wrestlers in Japan, like one of the greatest of all time. Antonio Inoki is not only spanned through the industry of professional wrestling, but also mixed martial arts. He is known heavily as one of the pioneers of mixed martial arts as well, because he would use a lot of techniques that is now a household name today, ground games and all that stuff. He would use that in his repertoire. And then also, I believe in the WWF, he was known as the martial arts champion. There was no such, the term mixed martial arts didn't come in until way later. I forgot the name of the person who came up with that term, but I forgive me for that because that guy passed away, but he made a great impact when he made that term. But Antonio Inoki is highly known, and what he's mostly known for, especially when it came to Pride Fighting Championship, is whenever he would meet with a certain particular fighter, if he slaps that fighter somehow, some way, for some reason, winds up becoming champion. And that is no joke. Like, that has happened so many times when it happened. There were times when Pride wasn't legit, but then they became a legit mixed martial arts organization. Still, some people still were skeptical due to circumstances of a certain involvement that I would not mention. But he would slap an opponent. He would slap one of the fighters like heavy, and it was a term of endearment and honor to be slapped by Inoki. And if you get slapped by Inoki, that means he has faith in you, and you have the ability to become champion. And those fighters ended up becoming champion. Lyoto Machida is one of the biggest examples of that. He went to the UFC and beat I forgot who he beat for that championship, but he beat somebody for that championship. And they reflected back on when he was in when he fought in Pride, and Inoki slapped the living crap like 3 times, and he just walked off because he knew. It was like, wow. So they reference to this, and and if you guys remember the Ali fight too, the Ali versus Antonio Inoki fight went to a no contest because Antonio Inoki wanted to lay on the ground, and then Ali wanted to stand up. So it's like it was a stalemate. It was pretty much a stalemate, which is somewhat what we see today. But now we have refs who are trained enough to say, like, if nothing's happening in the cage or in the octagon, you stand them up. That's it. There's some people who would go to the ground. There's jiu-jitsu artists who would go to the ground and will want you to test them out and see if you can handle their, grappling game. And if you don't, you get trapped and you get into a submission, you're done. If you don't know how to defend yourself in that format, you're not doing it. And that was the case with Muhammad Ali. He was not trying to hear it. He wanted to get the stand up. And unfortunately, boxing is a different style than wrestling or jiu-jitsu or, shoot wrestling or shoot fighting. Inoki wanted to test him out there because he knew he couldn't handle his stand-up. So it became a no contest, and they went on there. I think that I saw that match once. I saw that fight once. It just went on forever from that point. So they wanted to redo that scene. Yujiro wanted to redo that scene with Ali Jr., so he went to the ground. Instead, Ali Jr. went to smart route and left the hotel, which made Yujiro furious because he outsmarted him. He was like, why not? The best ways to get out of this position is to walk away. And Yujiro's face was priceless because he was like, wait, what? You're leaving a fight? What the hell? He left out. He bailed. He's like, I'm glad everything turned out peaceful for my father and Noki. Closed the door. Yujiro was pissed. He punched the living crap out of the door, broke the door down. Ali Jr. was nowhere to be found. He was out. And he Yujiro stumped on the ground so hard that it felt like a bomb hit in the building. And people were asking, is this a terrorist attack? And Ali Jr. is walking off. I thought that was a very, very funny moment there. So then you had Poison Baki versus C.King Lee. Baki fighting an opponent. Was fighting an opponent in the last season, as I mentioned, that possessed the poison hand technique, left him weaker than normal, which in turn still was more of a match for his opponent, C.King Lee, who also had that poison technique as well. Regardless, he left the victor of that that match. Thanks to C.King Retsu, who's actually a friend of Baki, but he's also one of the Kempo masters in China as well. Baki managed to recover back to full strength, getting all of his body weight back, and he looked as healthy as he could possibly be. This led to Baki believing that he was strong enough to fight his father at this point because he was revitalized and everything. He got a little bit too cocky, smelled himself too much, and that turned out as well as you would think, because with one strike, what was damn near a choke slam move or a face slam move, he grabbed his face, rammed him to the wall, forcing him deeper into the wall. The wall's cracking, and he said, who the hell do you think you are? Because he antagonized his father to make him seem like he was weaker. Kaku also made mention that he's weaker than he normally was too, and he's getting older, whereas Baki's getting stronger. And Yujiro wasn't trying to hear that. So he wind up forcing Baki's head right through the arena walls, throwing him out of the arena building itself. And Baki, much like Yujiro when he faced Ali Jr., came back in. Yujiro was gone, getting Baki pissed off. So that was a very interesting moment right there. The RAI TAI tournament was set to be a traditional tournament where the Warriors fight to the finals, which was Baki's plan to finally face Yujiro. Thanks to Yujiro, Ali Jr., and I believe Biscuit Olivia, and I would say also a poison Baki at that. The dominant power of the U.S. and Japan fighting team during this tournament led to Emperor Kaku deciding to change the stipulations of the RAI TAI tournament, which now became a 5-man elimination tournament between the Chinese Kempo Masters of the C team, or the C Emperor and King team, versus the MMA team of Japan and U.S. of Yujiro, Baki, Muhammad Ali Jr., Biscuit Olivia, and the Japanese Sea King, Jaku. So, which I guess he trained with China, but now he's actually from Japan, so they consider him an outcast, I guess, in this case. This also means that once again, and this has happened many a times, once again, we do not get to see the much anticipated rematch which has Baki versus Yujiro Hamna, his father. Baki. Let me see where I'm at. As you would expect, though, each fight was violent and explosive nonetheless. But Baki, as you also would expect, made quick work of his opponents. And although during his agreement to team up with his father, he reminded his father that he hated him. He basically said he hates you, but in reference, you got to extend that to the fact that he killed his mother in the first season. His own wife in the first season. And all because she was not strong enough. And he felt that at the time Baki was weak, and she trained him as a weak person, even though Baki was clearly not weak at all. He beat every one of his opponents that he faced during that first season. But to Yujiro, he was totally weak, and he did beat Baki at the end of the day, but he also killed his wife because of that. It's just so cutthroat. The two made a minor agreement and alliance, and there was one point in the show, in the series, where Baki won a match very quickly and decisively. And meeting him with his father, he high-fived his father. And they just had this one rare moment of union with each other. Of course, that would not last long at all. That was just one damn moment that they had, but it was a very interesting moment, a significant moment in the series here. So then we got Biscuit Olivia versus Shobun Run. Biscuit Olivia went up against Shobun Run in a sort of a strong style match where the two put their hands in their pockets, or in his tights for that matter, because he came out with wrestling tights or a Speedo or whatever when facing him. And I'm watching this match is on right now on my screen. And if you don't understand what a strong style is, if you don't watch pro wrestling, don't know what strong style is. Strong style wrestling or strong style is when you allow your opponent to hit you with the hardest hit that they could possibly can and see if you can actually take it. Then if you could take it, you then deliver your version of the strongest hit as well. And they just keep going back and forth until one ends up going out. And they just keep this up and keep this up. And for wrestling's sake, it could become very hard hitting, very high impact. It's heavy. Ow. And he backslapped him real quick as I'm looking at this. And so he takes a hit. And then he keeps telling him to take a hit. The one who falls with their fiercest attack is declared the winner, pretty much, in this case. Shobun gave Biscuit a backhand, followed by a plethora of strikes, leaving him bloodied and bruised. But it was Biscuit's boulder-like fist that slammed Shobun's shoulders. It just pretty much... He hit his shoulders in a way which was kind of equivalent of how somebody uppercuts you and hits you in the chin. And if you got a glass jaw, if you hit your person in the chin with enough force, and when you get that velocity of force, it puts an impact into your in your body that is the equivalent of a lot of weight being, Mike Tyson, for instance, how fast and how hard he hit was the equivalent of maybe like a motorcycle crashing into you. It's with that type of force and velocity in there. So if you get hit by a chin, it takes out all your legs get taken out. You become wobbly. You're out. If your chin has not been trained to take a hit, or if you don't have the body to take the strong jawline to take a hit. Biscuit hit him with his. Biscuit did go down for a sec. I didn't realize that. Biscuit actually did go down for a sec, but he got back up and was able to take a hit. And when he finally hit him with his two hands in both of Shobun Ron's shoulders, knocked him out completely. The match was over from right there. So I thought that was very interesting. I love this character, Biscuit Olivia, because if you guys watched the previous seasons, he is an inmate, but he also is a sort of a bounty hunter too. And he lives in jail, but he's out to get outlaws too. And because of that, he's allowed to live as comfortably as possible. Like, he has a library of books in his jail cell. He has TV. He has, exotic food and expensive, like, luxury food and gourmet, cuisine at every day because what he's doing. It's hilarious. So that's his situation right there. And I believe he is the only African-American character he is African-American. He's the only African-American character in the series, if I'm correct. So then you got what I call my favorite fight of the entire tournament, the best fight of the tournament. That was Yujiro Hanma versus Sea Emperor Kaku. And this was definitely the match of the entire tournament. Sea Emperor Kaku, way over 100 years old, in a wheelchair, but is deceivingly powerful. But like I just mentioned, he just chopped off 3 guys' hands at once. The man is ridiculous. This is a fight that the strongest fighter in the world, which is Yujiro Hanma, aches for. So to the point that basically he can acquire devilish speed and piercing strikes that can stab through normal opponents. And I'm talking about the Sea Emperor here. I like how this match started because they have much respect for each other's strength. And they had this moment where Yujiro takes his wheelchair, asks him to sit down, and they just walk into the middle. He takes Sea Emperor Kaku in wheelchair to the middle of the ring, or he just walks around with him in a wheelchair, and they're talking, and they just have this talk, knowing that in any second they're about to go off. And that's exactly what happened. As a result, Kaku basically went in blinding speed, got off his chair. The chair breaks how fast he went. That it just broke the damn chair, and he started to attack. This was just crazy. The results came to a crazy and insane battle between the 2 deadliest titans in this entire tournament, which ended up in Yujiro destroying the old man in ways that should have him arrested and put in jail for death row. What he did to this man. And in fact, the fight ended when Kaku technically died while in the ring, while in fighting stance at that, waiting for Yujiro's next strike. Yujiro stopped the force of his punch just inches away from Kaku as he noticed that he is no longer alive. There was no heartbeat, there was no breathing, there was no pulse. Done. They stopped the match right there. However, strangely later on, the medics take him to the back. They carried him in the gurney, took him to the back of the locker room where the Chinese team was, and this dude resurrects back up. He just comes back to life as nothing happened. Like, okay, my whole entire heart stopped and I did stop breathing, but I'm back. This anime is just beyond insane. It's just beyond insane. So, the last thing that I'm going to mention is Muhammad Ali Jr., which I mentioned in the beginning. Because the other focus of this season aims mostly on Muhammad Ali Jr. And Muhammad's journey aims at living up to his father's legendary name. That's pretty much it. And doing what his father could not do, which is beat Baki and Yujiro to become the strongest in the world, which would also make him the new GOAT, the greatest of all time, topping his father's legacy at that. So during the first part of the season, Muhammad Ali Jr. lives up to the honor of his father's name, and the family name, with his quick and explosive boxing style, taking out his opponent very rapidly and insane. Now, take note, he also wanted to add mixed martial arts into his fighting style because that's what his father did not do at the time. So he wanted to blend and kind of Jeet-Kune-Do the boxing style to create it to be able to work with mixed martial arts and underground fighting, like, what you see in these tournaments. However, after the tournament, he gets a bit too cocky with himself after his wins and after the Japanese team win the tournament. He gets a bit too cocky. So he pays for it dearly in the midst of multiple daily battles, with one crippling him more and more. So this is episode 10, which is entitled Stand and Fight. This is actually a filler episode, sort of, kind of, but it also is a comedic episode. I actually thought it was just funny. It has Ali Jr. in somewhat of a comical predicament as he vows to prove his love to Baki's girlfriend, Kozu Matsumoto, by becoming the strongest. And that means beating Baki and proving his love to her. He does this by fighting the likes of Baki's roid-raging half-brother Jackhammer, which came in... I think he came in the very first season, not the Netflix season, the original season, which I hope that they actually... I don't know. I don't understand why they don't air those original episodes. Hopefully they will get the rights to the original, because I think those are really intricate and pivotal moments. And for those who did not get a chance to watch the original episodes, they don't understand why Yujiro is such a badass, and some of the characters that are coming in. Like, you're watching, if you're a hardcore fan watching this, you know what's going on. You even watched the original OVA from like the 80s, but it doesn't really tell too much of a story of Baki's road too much. So if you're new watching this but never watched the actual original, they don't do a good job telling you the backstories or the first season of what happened with that. It's just like you had to been watching this from the get-go or not, and that's it. So unfortunately, I really hope Netflix does at some point brings all of it back when they finish with this series, with this Netflix series version, because it definitely needs to be told, and a lot of people needs to see why this is such a great anime and why this is probably one of the best MMA animes of all time from this point. But he ends up fighting Jackhammer along with Doppo Orochi of the Shinshinkai and Jujutsu Master Goku Shibukawa. So he's fighting all these guys on a daily, and each time he fights a new one of the newest opponents, he has a cast on, he's bruised, they break bone through his skin. Again, this is not for kids. Like, Muhammad Ali Jr. gets his ass beyond where, I don't even know what is the term. I mean, there's a lot of terms you could say, but whatever it is, yeah, that's what happened to him. The results ended up in him being bandaged up more and more every day, while having lunch with Zozu, which she's just looking at him like, you guys are stupid idiots. Because it's like she's looking at him like, you don't really have to do with this. You don't have to fight, but you guys are going to fight. You guys, and I believe she said that all of them are from Planet Stupid, which was really funny. And, when Doppo called him back to fight again, he was like, she looked at Muhammad Ali Jr. and was like, you're going to go out and fight again, aren't you? He's like, yep. Like, you idiot. So it's really cool. There is also the next episode, which is Junior's encounter with a very spry and very healthy Muhammad Ali Sr., who in this universe, as I mentioned, does not have issues of head trauma followed by Parkinson's disease like he does in real life. They don't mention it at all. This is actually them paying homage to Muhammad Ali in a sense, still recognizing him as the greatest of all time. And that is what I really appreciate about this anime, because this anime, aside from all the violence and aside from all that, they do take time to explain a lot of the technicalities of these techniques. They educate you with certain factors of the anatomy. They also talk about like some real history, some real sports and fighting history in here. And this is the part I love about anime. They do educate the hell out of you in certain things like this. Some things that you would never know if you watch like early, like normal Saturday morning cartoons or US shows. It just right there. It's like, I love what they do. Some of the technical aspects, like I watch UFC and watch Joe Rogan explain things so articulately and thoroughly. Anime does the exact same thing. It does absolutely the exact same thing, and I absolutely appreciate when they do that, because you learn a lot. You actually do learn a lot. And anime teaches you, man. So in that episode, he meets with Muhammad Ali, but Muhammad Ali is trying to give him grief for not being as strong enough as he wants him to be, or he should be. Now, Muhammad Ali Sr. is not as cutthroat as Yujiro, but there was an episode last season where Yujiro did meet up with Muhammad Ali, and they have some sort of a mutual respect for each other. Like, Yujiro recognizes him for his godhood. At the same time, Ali respects him as who he is as well. It's the only god I don't recall they ever really faced each other, because they respect each other's, deal. Again, this is respect to them for respecting the greatest of all time in boxing. So, if I had any negative about this season, it is just this. With Netflix the Netflix season only being like one half of a 26 episode season that originally aired in Japan just a few months before they aired it all over the world. This was a big tease here, because the last episode showed Yujiro finally feeling that Baki was ready to face him. He was strong enough to face him, and he actually finally challenged him at the end of episode 12. So myself and many other fans thought that we would finally get the two facing off in the last episode of the season, but instead we were given a recap as well as a follow-up to the Death Row fighters that went on a wild hunt in Japan to face Baki in season 2. And they did mention lightly that those two were going to fight, but it just went total left field and had us going into the point that we were going to actually see those two finally, face off. Nope. The final episode of the first half of the 26 episodes gives us a lackluster filler episode, and many people online were very upset about that. This was indeed very disappointing, because the season was so good, and then they top it off with that. If anything, I would have stopped right at episode 12 and just waited till the next season to do that. I would not have left it hanging with that episode. And even worse, we don't know when the next season will even come, with COVID-19 still affecting many studios. Like I mentioned before on this show, that due to the circumstances, they are delaying the audio work, because a lot of the actors, they're not in studios anymore. They're doing audio work from home. They're doing their studio work from home. So they're doing their voiceover work at home. A lot of them are. All of them are. I don't think there's one or two people in that studio that is doing it. They're all doing it from the safety of their home. So that's going to prolong the situation. I can definitely tell you Steve Bloom is doing it from home, because that's what we were hearing when he did the Zoom chat with him a while back. So a lot, and they mentioned it on Toonami, and Steve Bloom is a part of that team, the Toonami team, and does a ton of different animes and games. So I know for a fact that he's doing it, and he's on the show. He's Dopo Orochi on this series. So I know that they're doing it at home, and they delayed, just like they did with Ghost in the Shell. Ghost in the Shell started as only Japanese audio only, and then like a few weeks later, then they brought it in. So they're coming. It's going to be delayed. There's nothing we can do. COVID-19 is affecting everybody in their own way, but at least they're coming. So, and with that said, the series is absolutely great, but it ended off with that, and that was just it just sucked. It just sucked. It really did. It's like you were building and building and building so greatly, and then you just get this dud of a finish for the first half of this season. So some believe that the fourth season may come as soon as the end of the year. We don't know. there's no confirmation to that for that at the moment, but regardless, this is still one of the best mixed martial arts animes out there. I love Kengan Ashura, and I really do like that anime, but it's so much like Baki. It really, like, if you watch it, you would have thought that is absolutely a 3D rendered version of Baki. Cell shaded version of Baki, in a sense. It's still great. It's still awesome, but and I still highly recommend checking out Kengan Ashura if you want to still have some, mixed martial arts fix, because they do some really cool stuff in here too. And it's a different feel, but at the end of the day, it still carries the same feeling with it. But as far as this season, it was really, really good, and then it ended in a dud. So with that, if I give it a grade overall, it will be a B+. Hopefully the 4th season will be the payoff that we've been waiting for. I want the 4th season to not only give us Yujiro versus Baki, but I want them to do that Dragon Ball style. I need that to last at least 3 episodes at least, because we've been waiting forever for this to happen. At least 3 to 4 episodes out of the 12 episodes. We've been waiting for this to happen for so damn long. I know I have. I've been waiting for I think probably even before 2000, I've been waiting to see Baki face his father and beat his father. Because what he did in that first season, and again, I highly recommend all of you to go out of your way to find the original first 2 seasons, not these 3 seasons that you're looking at on Netflix. There are 2 seasons that are not. In fact, let me give you a sec. I'm going to go on my folders because I actually have the files for this, and I'm going to find this for you. I'm going to find and tell you how many episodes there are in this. So bear with me just for 1 sec. God, when you think you got enough terabyte drives, you always need more. So ridiculous. Series. Can we go Baki? Here we go. Baki and it's called Baki the Grappler. So that's how you're able to, know the difference between the Netflix series Baki and the original 2 series is called Baki the Grappler. There are 48 episodes in this match, which means there are like 24 episodes. The first original season is 24. And then they go into the other season when Baki gets a little bit older and he fights in the tournament again. So he's at, the first season, he's a little kid, like literally a little kid who could beat everybody's ass. And that was the thing about Baki. He's a prodigy in fighting. And the kid should not be able, a little 14-year-old kid should not be able to beat the living crap out of older established fighters. This kid's a genius. And then the second season, which is like episode 25 through 48, it's him growing up after the events of what happened with Yujiro and him the first time they fought. So they've been dragging this forever. And I am chomping at the bits to see this fight, like as if it was a real pay-per-view event. And I will treat this like a true pay-per-view event when this comes out, and I will review this again when that time happens. They better give this to us. I swear to goodness. So that will do it, folks, for this episode of Talk Time Live. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you had a great time with this. I hope this was able to take your mind off things that is going on in the real world. But right now, next up, I should say, not even right now, next up, we're going to get a little real. And I'm going to talk about some real world stuff that, in reference to the movie Just Mercy, starring Jamie Foxx and Michael B. Jordan. I'm sorry, I was about to say Michael J. Fox. Sorry, Michael B. Jordan and Brie Olson. A movie I extremely recommend everybody to see. It was inevitable that I go see this. I was trying to avoid seeing this movie, but I ended up, due to the circumstances, I wound up seeing it anyway, and it things just came back on me. So we'll talk about that in the next episode. But there's a lot to talk about in that episode. My experiences in reference to what happened in that movie. And so this is the first time I'm ever going to say this. I ask everybody to check that out as well as this, if not more, on that episode, because if you don't think that is real, I'm about to tell you how real those situations are and how real that movie was. And it was based on a true story. But I'm going to tell you how real this really is. And if you think you don't know people that has been through this and is are black like myself, whew, I'm about to get real with you. And definitely get real with you on this episode. So this week on Select Start, I will review my second attempt at playing the classic Tales of Vesperia, and I decided to just go with the flow. I had this game on the Xbox when I used to actually own an Xbox 360, and I brought it, and I did like it, but it for some reason I just wasn't into beating that game, so I never finished playing that game. I never got that deep, but I felt like it was just dragging forever. But I know people like that, and I know people enjoy it. So when it came, the definitive edition came on to the Nintendo Switch, I just decided to check it out, and it was on sale too at the time too. So I was like, you know what? I think now's the time for me to check it out. And I've been playing this, and I've been deeper than I've ever been in this game as well. So I will definitely give this a thorough review and give my thoughts on it. Do I like it now? We'll see. We'll talk about that more. So we'll stay tuned for that, and then hopefully things in society and things in the world will calm down, and and plus we got to see if PlayStation will announce their PlayStation 5 presentation as well from there, and hopefully, like I said, the world will become a lot calmer. We'll all start to learn more about things, and we'll learn to work together. And by the way, with that said, happy Pride Month to the LGBTQ community, because unfortunately with everything that's been going on, I feel bad. Even with everything that's going on, I still feel bad for that culture and community, because they exist and they matter in their own right as well. They matter no more than everybody else, but right now we're fighting for our wealth and value. And there are people in the black community who is also part of the LGBTQ community out there. And everybody needs to be valued in some form. But when one culture is being outcast and killed and castrated, we have to focus and allow people to know that we matter equally, no more, no less than everybody else. That's what this fight is for. People who say all lives matter, they're not understanding the full length. Of course we know that, you blockheads, but we can't all matter if one denomination does not. That's the idea. Educate yourself, people. Educate yourself. With that said, we're going to get off from here and go directly from there. So on this note, on behalf of myself, this is Dak Xavier Josiah saying, learn to let go, live life, and love all things and everybody, and especially anime, comics, movies, and games. This is A.C.M.G. Presents Talk Time Live. I am out of here. Stay tuned for the next special episode. Music for this episode is provided by Game Chops. Check out these great chiptune tracks and more at music.gamechops.com.